What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Boost and Booze. I think we're on episode 20 now. We're going to be talking about car culture today. So, not just hard parkers versus guys that go to the track and whatever the fuck else, man. But I want to talk about how just the car culture as a whole has changed over the last 20 years I've been involved with it, or so, if not longer. What these guys have seen, Cody, Adrian, it spans everything. It spans imports, Euros, muscle cars, fucking off-roaders, everything. I think the whole culture has definitely changed, maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. But yeah, that's the subject today. Cody, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good. I guess really it's how far do you want to go back with this as far as car culture goes? I mean, because we can go way
I don't think
back
we need to
if you
talk
want
about Model Ts and shit, bro, but,
No. I mean, we can bring it back to original drag racing.
Well, I think it's more so like just what we've seen change, man. Like, so, Adrian's going to jump in with this. I know he is on this topic. But, for like me, man, before, I think I was in cars before the original Fast and Furious movie came out, right? The JDM cars really blew up in America and went, over the top mainstream, if you will. Of course, there was already a subculture there. There was already a scene going on in America, but it wasn't everyone and their mom putting underglows on their Pontiac fucking GT or whatever else, and some AutoZone sticker vents, dude. The guys before really everything went Hollywood were car guys that just happened to like imports instead of muscle cars. And I watched the blow up happen as the movies got released, and whether you like the movies or not, man, they were culturally influential in America and globally, I would argue. They really brought a ton of highlights to the car community. Whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, who knows? But I'll kind of dive back into that here in a minute. Let's give Adrian a chance to say good morning.
You just tell me to say good morning?
Good morning. All right, you're done.
What's up, guys? So, welcome back. And, the car community has definitely changed a lot. I know I've seen it even in, like, drifting, dude. Like, that's why I'm here. I'm the drifter. And even from the time that I started and doing it overseas to, like, what it's turned into now is, I don't think a lot of people thought it would get here. Some people think it's good. On the business side of things, I guess you could claim that it's good, but more in the grassroots and everyday or weekend warrior type of driving, it's fucking expensive and you don't do it as much anymore. And it kind of pushes some of us to other aspects of driving, right? Like, well, not even driving, just other aspects in the car community. Like we used to go to customs night a lot. And then I think once you started taking the business serious, Seth, we kind of died out from going out to the weekly meets. And then the custom nights were just like, we're just going to customs nights once a month. Yeah. And I find myself going to fucking Wawa and like just meeting up with a couple of my buddies weekly now. Because I can't afford to go drift as much. Like we were drifting like the streets almost twice a month, and then when we weren't doing the streets, we were drifting at the track, and it was like every weekend was driving, and then there were like fucking poker runs, and there were all these crazy things going on. But yeah, I think between then and now, it's been a huge change.
Yeah, I mean, I think one huge change I've seen since I got into this as an enthusiast 24 years ago. Is one double-edged sword, right? So back in the day, car guys knew about their cars, like just generally speaking, right? Whether they were a full-on mechanic or not, and they turned the wrenches themselves, they knew, everyone would be like, oh, this is a 1966 Mustang, and I've got, Ford fucking 454 or something, whatever, right? Dual dual barrel cars. Like they could at least talk their cars, if that makes sense, right? They understood the car that they had. Now I feel like that's less common amongst the average enthusiast as a whole. And I don't know. I think part of it ties into what you're saying. I think it's gotten so expensive that people can't afford to take the risk of not having a pro do it, or it's intimidating or scary. Kind of scary to have to take that risk because what if I fuck up this $10,000 fucking stroker kit, right? Kind of thing. Just as an example, when I got my way back in the day, my super dope, I'm badass fucking nitrous intercooler sprayer for my Evo. Me and my buddies had no clue at all how to install a nitrous kit, not one. But we pulled out the manual, generally read it, and got a case of Bud Light and sat in the driveway and fucking wrenched on that shit until it looked real good and was all mounted up. You know what I mean? And that's how we learned stuff. So,
well, I mean, first step with that is to get rid of all of the safety purge valves, block all of them. But
so
no, I mean, honestly, I will say everybody's got to start somewhere. For me, I guess it's always been if I keep my mouth shut and just watch, eventually somebody will ask me something. Well, I won't piss off enough people if I talk to where they'll want to show me something, or if I ask about something, it's not a hindrance, I guess. Because I know with you when we first met, there was an Evo that possibly had blown up, and I was going there trying to snag parts, literally just to resell them because I knew that I could. But it turned into, I don't even know how, but next thing I know, I'm sweeping your garage and helping put up tools. But and it evolved from there. I don't think that aspect of it is there anymore.
Why? I guess my question to be, and if anyone who's out there listening, like, why was there such a radical shift away from dudes turning wrenches on their car? Right? When did it become guys scared to drive their cars necessarily? When did it become X, Y, and Z? Right? Like, what was the major shift that everyone out there saw in the car culture? And that's probably the biggest one for me. Is it became more show car, less used car, I guess. Is one way to put it.
So, I mean, I have an opinion on this, right? Like I do with many things. And I straight up, I don't blame social media. I think it was the generation of, technology and social media that kind of affected this, because when we all got started, like we had MySpace, right? And like you just picked who your friends were and guilt tripped everybody else that like, hey, you're not good enough friends. You're not on my top 5. And then you had like a cool background and some music playing, and that was it. You had forums where if you wanted to do said nitrous install on your car, like when you went on your forum, you had to rely on somebody else to do a write-up or mention it for it to like scan and show a keyword of like nitrous and Evo in the same forum. Right. And then you just read forums and you collected all this background knowledge of like, hey, this isn't a nitrous install, but it's like how to tune nitrous with retarding the timing. Right. So you got all the background information, and then you had to connect the dots. Like you had to use your brain. And you fast forward to like this generation and everything's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. They're relying on people like Adam LZ to do unrealistic builds. And you're like, boom, there's a G3900 on a car that is a average build now, right? Like, you see shit like that, and it's impossible builds because the majority of these people getting into the scene are not going to afford it. Like, they're not going to buy the G3900. They're not going to buy the standalone ECU, the RTEC manifold. They're not dropping 15 grand to do a turbo ECU and injectors, right? And have somebody else do that. So a lot of these dudes are chicken shit because this is what they're coming up in. They're seeing Whistling Diesel. They're seeing fucking Yee Boy out in Bradenton at Freedom Factory that does the drag racing. The hell yeah brother, dude. Forget his name.
Cletus.
You should know that. Yeah, Cletus. Like, they see Cletus, they see Adam, they see Jimmy Oaks, They see all these guys doing these crazy builds, and it's like so irrelevant to their viewers. And you don't have that generation coming in where it was as simple as like, hey, if I bump my distributor or my cam angle sensor 2 degrees forward, the car feels more peppy, right? I can run a little more gas. Like I can advance my timing to get a little like torquier feel out of the car and run better fueling to upkeep it. You don't have shit like that. You have people that are like getting credit cards or like ripping their friends off on their old parts. Like they're selling junk. Like, dude, they're selling junk at full fuckboy prices to get ahead so that they can buy the RTEC manifold from Adam LZ and be like, oh yeah, dude, I got the fucking LZ special, right? Like they're trying to draw these connections to the people that they see that are influencers and copy that. And so when it does come time to do it, it's like they're not doing as much. It's not an eBay manifold with a BorgWarner SXE with fucking injectors, and then let's say even a Haltech Platinum Pro or ECU Masters or something like budget friendly. They're not doing every aspect of the build on a tight budget with knowledge. They're just reaching and grabbing for these big items one by one.
Right. I think.
I mean,
I think it's. Go ahead, Cody, because I got a lot to say.
I think like growing up, I remember being in high school, having my first job working at a pharmacy. I remember like when nobody was coming in, I would go grab all of the tuner mags or Super Street or you name it. I mean, whether it was Low Rider magazine or whatever, and I was reading them front to back, back to front. And that was, for me, that was the real way of learning about people's builds and what was possible. Now it's just, you could go on Google and type in, fuck, it doesn't even matter, X engine, X platform or chassis, and somebody has probably already done it. You know what I mean? Like it's,
Yeah, that's 100%.
Like before, you were like, holy shit, did you see the new Super Street where I can't even think of the guy's name anymore, but he built this single cam Honda with Suzuki Vitara pistons and threw a turbo on there, and somehow it's holding together with 700 horsepower. And that was like unheard of.
I think there's a few things, and it all ties back to kind of the same point. First of all, social media definitely had a massive impact on car culture, just like everything else. Like, so from the Rotary community side, right? Back before Facebook really blew up, when it was the forums, like Adrian's saying, yeah, there was a 3-rotor subforum, and you never went in there because you definitely couldn't afford to be in that forum. Like there was nothing there for you. You know what I mean? That was rich kids playing with rich shit or professional race teams kind of thing in there talking about their unobtainium. Now, it's posted more. And it's not necessarily that they're more like rotor and 4-rotor builds, right? It's that, and of course, they're a little more obtainable now because the guys that forefronted it, led the way, have made parts to make the swap easier. But it's still a $60,000-$70,000 swap if you do it right. But people see them on like every day on Facebook. Like, look, here's another 3-rotor. Here's a 3-rotor. Here's a 4-rotor. Here's a 2JZ swapped Nissan Micra. Like, and it's these ridiculously cool builds, but they're portrayed as being really, really common, and they're not. And so, kind of going to what Adrian said, like, oh, I see this 3-rotor, I see this 3-rotor, I see this 4-rotor. Well, now you see 50 a day on social media. So you think that's the standard of a build, versus like what you were saying, you got Super Street once a month and it had like 4 or 5 sick builds, and you knew damn good and well you probably weren't buying that build, right? But it maintained its rarity or its elusiveness, I guess, because you didn't see it. You weren't inundated with it every minute of every day like it's what everyone was doing. Because I can tell you, man, that is not the reality of every day. We used to do exactly what Adrian's talking about. We used to, dude, look at my sick, cool exhaust. But the other thing with that is parts availability, right? How many people were making turbo manifolds in 2003 for like an Evo, right? Evo 8, AMS, Busher Racing, ETS had just shown up. Extreme Turbo Systems was brand new kid on the block. And then you had the JDM shit out of Japan, like HKS, Greddy, which was unobtainium because the prices were ridiculous. The logistics back then weren't what the logistics are now. So for you to get JDM parts in America, dude, you were big balling, right? And so I think, one, the fact that you've got everyone and their brother kind of the going back to, the Hollywood thing, more people are picking up TIC torches, more people are learning how to build these parts for the car, which is awesome. And it started more shops. So parts are a little bit more available, I guess. So the crazy builds are a little bit more obtainable because the parts are a little more available, but it doesn't mean that it's the average everyday build.
So you kind of said it, where, fuck, how do I put this where it makes sense? So the quality of the content that came out, right? Like, I remember when I first started driving, and YouTube was around, you could go out there and you could watch videos, and what was popular, what existed, was how-to videos, budget-friendly options for making power. Cody, I know you've watched the trucks and like Power Nation clips and stuff like that for sure. So they showed you how to port heads, right? Like they showed you, hey, this is your budget option to do an oil return on like a Chevy big block. You just take your Dremel or whatever, or carbide burbot, and fucking wallow out the hole and put a bevel on it so the oil actually flows in back to your oil pan. And like now you have shops that are all about CNC machining, which is great for technology, but like simple principles of, hey, all you have to do is, smooth, put a chamfer on that hole. Now they're just gatekeeping, and they're like, oh, bro, like, yeah, we've got the secret sauce and recipe to do it. But even now, when I look back, some of those videos don't even fucking exist on YouTube, bro. Like when I log on to YouTube, I want to see these old tricks, the free horsepower, the things that I can do without having to take this motor to MazWorks. Because here's the thing, I could have a fully assembled motor, I could have a minor issue, and I could say, hey, MazWorks, you do this. Can you please, run my block or run my head through it and slap it back on? And you know what MazWorks is going to say? And I know, Seth, because we're going through this with a shared customer right now. They only want to fucking do full builds. They're not going to deck your head. They're not going to do your oil gap. Like they're not going to pull your fucking plugs on the ports for the oil passages to clean your block out. Like if that's all you need done, they want to take your long block, fully disassemble it, do their recipe, and then reassemble it. Right.
So I think part of that.
I think that has something to do.
Well, here's the problem. And I'm going to jump in as a shop owner on this, right? When you get to a point of reputation, and I know Donald's in the same boat because we've had this conversation with Donald recently, actually, me and him sitting around bullshitting. You build a reputation and you get busy. Like MazWorks has an amazing reputation, right? And so your time becomes more and more valuable, if you will, for what you're doing. And there's a level of quality that you have to ensure to maintain the reputation that you made. So it becomes, from a business perspective, not practical to do partial builds or single services at a certain point, and only taking on full build service, if that makes sense, right? It's the biggest bang for our buck as a shop to do it from start to finish. We get to control the quality start to finish, et cetera, et cetera. So you've got to see it both ways in that regard. Now, I totally agree with you on like the old YouTube videos showing you how to like port heads or port a rotary plate, things like that. You look at some of these big name shops. Well, one, everyone thinks the only way to get a head ported now is to send it to Headworks.
Yeah.
right? It's got to be CNC. It's got to be a Headworks machine shop. Like, no, it doesn't. People were porting heads for a long fucking time before a CNC machine existed,
Yep.
right? Before the mill went into business. So you can do it yourself, man. Just be smart. Maybe do some reading. You know where you can find a lot of this knowledge for everyone out there that may be younger and listening? Go down to your bookstore or get on, those probably don't exist anymore. Go to Amazon, because that's where all the books are probably kept now. And get some of those old like engine builder books, Turbocharging 101. I still read those books, man, because those are the dudes like Aaron Banks writing books, and they're dropping 50, 60 years of knowledge in a book. And read it, and then you have it, and you can reference it, and it gives you the math formulas and all that kind of shit, right? It's good shit. So I suggest that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
So I think also it's kind of a like for head porting, for example, it's not always necessary for what you're trying to achieve, because depending on what engine you have, let's go off of a small block Chevy or LS, you can buy heads that will work for what you're trying to do without having to do all that extra stuff. And you're still going to end up probably with a better product at the end as far as a drivable vehicle than, trying to sit there and fight with somebody or a shop to try and get. To you, seems like a big project. To them, they're not even going to keep their lights on if they take the project on. You know what I mean?
I don't think a lot of people realize how much work porting heads really is.
It definitely is,
Like,
it's not a small job, but
That's not a
in the
couple
grand
hours
scheme
worth
of-
of work, dude.
But in the grand scheme
A
of
day or
things,
two.
it's counterintuitive for a large company to take on one small port job when if they skip over it and hey, this next dude wants a full engine build. You know what I mean? It's
So I think
it sucks, but
I think we've pretty much covered that. And I think one thing too, just to end out the head work conversation. Adrian, you and me, we used to port heads because that's what everyone said to do to make power. That's what the internet forum said, right? And then along came these nifty tools like Fusion 360, where you can actually model your head flow and look at velocity. And then it became kind of known on a lot of heads that maybe the multi-million-dollar OEM manufacturer wasn't wrong with their head shapes and their port shapes. Like, some of these heads flow better the way they are, right? And a lot of these head jobs out there nowadays are really just smoothing out the casting.
Yep.
Cylinder heads, because it already flows, right? Oh, what's up,
you
Brian?
said it a lot more eloquently than I did, but that's what I was getting at.
Vern's down there. He still won't sell me his Dodge Viper engine he has here.
I can actually, if you want one, I can source you one.
So one other thing I want to talk about with the whole culture thing, right? And Adrian, you kind of touched on this, is like, we used to go to customs night out there in Japan. I used to go to the car shows in America until we were chased off by cops and things like that at night, right, for taking over some random parking lot. But when did takeovers, right? Like, how did we go from everyone hanging out talking about their builds to let's go out and just shut down streets and intersections and, not even parking lot drift, but just recklessly endanger crowds around them, right? And before I get into this, I'm not picking on the new generation. Like, dude, we used to have Chevelle show up and do burnout competitions and shit back in my day too in America. But they weren't like running through the crowd while drifting and shutting down public street intersections kind of thing, right? We had underground street racing, drag racing, and people got hurt sometimes. But it seems like the takeover culture, if you will, is really more about endangering everyone around them than kind of just being hooligans sitting in a parking lot, I guess.
It's actually funny, dude, because that shit's so stereotypical. Like, it's literally the people that don't have any business in the car community, I think. Like, it's the dudes that are sitting there buying these fucking Mopars or Mustangs and Camaros and like VQ cars, and they have like shit credit score and high APRs and interest rates, and they just want that Me Too aspect. Because like, you talk to a drifter, like a takeover is not drifting, right? It's fucking stupid burnouts, rolling burnouts, swinging the car, being reckless. You talk to a takeover dude, and he's like, "Yeah, bro, I'm doing the fucking rollback, and I'm fucking like swinging the car. I'm drifting." Like, they will claim that they're doing this other form of motorsport while doing a takeover. And you talk to people that are actually in that form of motorsport, and they're like, on behalf of us, like, we do not claim this person. We give them to whoever, right? Like, they just pass them along. And like, that whole culture, what it is they support each other. And like, stupidity just draws more stupidity, and then it ends up being a massive clusterfuck of idiots that are together because nobody in the motorsports community fucking wants them. Nobody, like, they're hiding from the law, so there's only a few spots you can effectively do that. So they all muster up together, and here's this one gaggle fuck of like high interest rate stupid motherfuckers doing stupid shit that will never make it to a racetrack. You will never see a takeover kid go to a fucking racetrack and throw down. He could be like, "Oh yeah, dude, I'm swinging it. I'm doing the rollback. I'm doing all this cool shit." You take him to a fucking racetrack, that motherfucker is the slowest dude there. If he'll even run on the track to back up what he says.
Right. Well, I think,
I don't think many people would
just,
even care if they did it in a safe environment. Like, if you found an empty parking lot and that's what you wanted to do, I honestly think that people would not really give a fuck about it. It's not cool. I mean, I do see videos here and there, and I'm like, dude, why the fuck would you do that with that car? Like,
so for me, man, like, I'm against street drifting, right? And that's just because I'm probably older at this point, but I totally get it. And I agree with you, Adrian. The takeover thing is definitely not even street drifting. You know what I mean? And there's a difference there. But you see that across multiple motorsports. If you want to look at it like that, like, there's guys that go out and run their sports bikes at 200 miles an hour at night, right, down the expressways and shit. But they tend not to be associated with the guys that actually take their bikes to the track and run the track, right? And if you put them side by side, you take the track guys against the street guys. A lot of times, the track guys, 9 times out of 10, I would say, are just the more skilled driver, regardless of the motorsport discipline. That's just the way it is. But if that's your thing, you're on the street, you're doing the underground drag racing, or what the fuck ever, man. As long as you're doing it in an intelligent manner, and you're not trying to fucking Tokyo drift through fucking Shinjuku, right? Like, or Shibuya, like, yeah, cool, man, whatever. That's on you if you get caught. But I would still argue that you're gonna get better and more skilled once you actually take it to a track as well, and do both. If that's what you want to do, man, you want to keep it on the street and you want to run that outlaw life, like, I would still suggest you get on the track where there's no other distractions except driving. You know what I mean? So,
and there's so many tracks now that, like, if you're into drag racing, there's so many tracks now that do no prep, and they have giant cash days. If you really can back up your driving, and it's not just grudge racing, no prep. They have bracket racing, no prep, if that's your thing. And people are out there making stupid side bets. Like, the last time that I went out to an actual drag racing event, it was 4 trucks, diesels, and it was called it's Diesel Wars. They have it twice a year in North Carolina, and dudes are making insane bets. Like, I'm talking on the side. It's not even to win the night. You're leaving with like $5,000 if you're lucky. That's not even paying for a transmission. But dudes are making $20,000 side bets. Like, if it's about the gambling aspect, dude, you're not gonna find more money than at a track. I promise you that.
So over on my Instagram, because the Instagram comments unfortunately don't stream in here. there's one of my buddies and clients. He's been in Okinawa since him and a couple friends started the Zero Yone forums back in the day. For anyone that actually knows Zero Yone, it's probably one of the oldest fucking JDM forums around as far as English, partial English speakers and everything else, right? So, but he just said, hey man, Takeover Culture absolutely destroyed Customs Night in Okinawa, Japan. And it's shut down now. Like for those guys that don't know it, the old American Village parking lot meet that happened once a month where there would be hundreds of cars. We've had Liberty Walk out there before. I mean, there's been major celebrity guests out there for Customs Night. It's gone. They basically barricaded the parking lot shut and have guards now. So that's over. And it's a huge blow to the car community out there as far as the guys that, the guys that want to just build their cars or have the show car aspect of it, like, and hang out, talk about their Gallo 24.
Well, I remember Customs Night. It was right before or right after Tokyo Auto Salon, and then Kato-san and all those guys came. And
yeah, I remember
they were out. I mean,
out.
Yeah, but those are like, some people that could get away with hooning and not really, slap on the wrist. Be going out to do that, it's not happening. Any normal person, it's not happening.
I think that was one of the last Custom Nights Adrian went to, man.
Yeah, it's like in this generation, dude, like bullying doesn't exist. And I don't mean that in like pick on people for justifiable means of discrimination. It was stupidity was moderated, right? Like you had shit like that, and like people would go bust out kneecaps, steal their wheels, like pop their tires, whatever. And it just like you don't have that level of moderation anymore. Like old heads, like it's just not worth our time. We have all got businesses to run. We've got work to do. Like I'm not even that involved in the car community anymore. Like I could give a shit less. Like these dudes are going street drifting, my buddies, and I'm like, I go hang out. The car's, getting put together. It's not 100%, but like it's just like it's no longer my main goal in life is to go out there and just do this shit, right? And you kind of just look past it and you're like, yeah, well, I had my time, I hit my prime, and like I'm just chilling now. And it just allows all these kids to go out there, fucking act stupid, get away with all this dumb shit. And you're like, eventually somebody has to come in and moderate it, right? And now it's not us, it's not the old heads, it's not the OGs, it's the fucking law, right? Like, we're experiencing this right now. My buddy that I do some work with, he's a veteran here as well. He's a great guy, but he's got a Supra and he has a VK supercharged swap 350Z. Two, like a built Supra, a built Z, beautiful cars. And he's just like, I asked him today, I was like, hey man, after this podcast or whatever, you want to link up? And he's like, nah, man. I'm like, well, why? So last weekend we did a car show, which got broken up by the cops 30 minutes in. We moved to a different location, Tawawa. That got broken up by the cops. Like the cops were legitimately, they showed up like 30 deep and they all split up and followed each small group of the individuals that gathered at this mall parking lot initially, just to park and talk. Like there was no revving, there was no stupidity, like literally just people with cars parking in a parking lot, chilling, talking, checking each other's cars out like the good old days, right? And they just followed all the fucking groups to wherever they went, bro. And then they busted them out there. And then when they kicked them out of there, they had more cops waiting to fucking follow them wherever they went. And like in this small town, they chased away hundreds of people as they broke from hundreds down to like individual small groups. And it's like, this is the result of not having that type of moderation in-house.
Well, dude, it's funny. It reaches everywhere too. And I just learned this yesterday. So I'm looking at putting together a motorsport festival here in the upcoming months where we're going to have like shotgun rides with drifters. We're going to have, drifting demos, burnout comps, things like that. And I was talking to one of my friends last night because he had done a kind of a similar event on a smaller scale. And he's like, "Yeah, dude, we rented out this area. We had permits, like everything. And basically, it was him and buddies rented this entire area out to do like just take their drift cars out, kind of in a public road legally, if you will, right? By renting out this section, had all the permits, did everything by the book legally, and the cops showed up and still kicked them out, just shut the event down. And they were like, "Bro, we have permits, we have all the applications, everything." I mean, they got refunded, but that's not the point. Like the cops just showed them, were like, "No." So it's everywhere, man.
I think the takeover thing, I think that has evolved from the revving competitions or whatever that people would have at customs nights or car shows, and then the loud like bass competitions that people would, or you'd be out at customs night and hear somebody with their crazy like stereo setup, and then I think all those people, I think, more or less delved into this whole takeover thing, and that's I think where that part of the culture went.
You're always gonna have audio guys, and it doesn't matter. You go get your cartoon. There's always gonna be a crackle pop with it. Like you have shit like that, and it exists.
But right? You don't need to sit there and fucking like okay. This shit's fucking annoying. Like,
okay,
like hold on. I want to take this because it's such a fucking pet peeve of mine.
Crackle tunes?
Your fucking rev limiter is not a goddamn two-step. Fucking morons. All right, check it out. That again came from social media where everyone saw two-step and was like, "Oh, so cool." Blah, 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 blah. With the drag cars, right? Or they watched rally racing and saw anti-lag, which does the crackle pop because it's injecting oxygen into the fucking turbo to keep it spooled. Now, your rev limiter on your D15 single overhead cam 23 horsepower Honda Civic does not have two-step. It does not sound good. No one likes it.
Bro, it's VQs.
It's not the VQs, dude. Now it's the
it is VQs and BMWs, bro.
The Kia boys and the fucking Hyundai boys and their Solstice or whatever the fuck they're called.
Bro, I talk to people right now that are like, "Oh yeah, I just got my car. I'm gonna get it ready to go drifting," right? And it's like the first thing they do is not like, "Oh, let me go get a performance tune." It's like, "Yeah, dude, I gotta get this like crackle tune on it real quick, and then weld the diff, and then I'm ready." It's like, why is the crackle tune a fucking priority, bro? They're like, "Oh, I gotta get the crowd going when I'm on the fucking skid pad drifting." It's like, yeah, but your whole whopping 200 horsepower with like a crackle tune, just like it's unimpressive.
I don't know, Cody, you were there. I think that night that I basically shut Customs Night down with my two-step.
That was actually the first night that car was out done. Like so we had that motor show down south, and then
so we had the 13B. We had the 13B out. My old large Streetport EFR. We were putting down probably around 650-ish at 30 pounds of boost on that engine.
It was
give or take. It was a full titanium exhaust off a JGTC car. It was a nice build. Should have left it, but I didn't because I can't. But again, everyone was sitting there hitting their fucking red lines like it was two-step at Customs Night. And so on my way out, I hit my real two-step. Because if no one's ever heard real two-step versus me bashing my rev limiter, there is a significant difference in how the car sounds. And yeah, the two-step kicked in, and then I launched a fireball out the back of the car when I let off it, and basically everyone just stopped.
It got real quiet.
Yeah. I remember that because I texted you. I was like, dude, you threw a fireball and scared my kid.
Sorry.
Like you just did. I swear some of the old Okinawans, I swear some of them were like, "Oh fuck, we just got hit with a nuke again." Like, like you just, it was
Damn.
pitch black, and you just sky lighting up.
But yeah, I mean, dude, if you want to step, talk to a real tuner. You know, I'm going to tell you as a tuner, and sure, I'm not a real tuner. Crackle tunes mean that your tuner can't tune. Your car should not crackle, crackle, pop, pop. Okay, no.
It should gurgle.
Yeah,
At the
it
most.
it should fold. No, dude, but you'll hear it, and this is where I think a lot of this came from on the drift cars, especially in the drift scene, right? So with drift cars,
Come from my people, dude.
Yeah, I'm coming for your people. One of the things that we always fight with competition drift cars is heat, is temperatures, right? And that's why you see like the rear mounted radiators, so they can run a massive, the Super A90 radiator, massive, that's really common out here, but it won't fit in the engine bay, so they'll run it in the rear a lot of times, right? That's where that started, was I need to run a radiator so fucking big it doesn't fit in my engine bay anymore. And then it evolved into a style thing, I would argue, from there. But because we always are fighting charge temps, and we're fighting trying to keep the engine cool, because the hotter it gets, the more likely we are to have pre-detonation or pre-ignition. We will use excess fuel on the overrun or on the decel, right? We'll disable the decel, which we use on street cars to save fuel, and we'll actually add fuel into that overrun area of the map. Because of that, we're injecting excess fuel in an area where we don't have the throttle open anymore. That's where you would get that snap, crackle, pop, right? Because it's burning off that fuel, kind of like a two-step, but without an ignition retard. So that's where the pop crackle came from on actual pro drift cars. It is not an intentional thing that's like, oh, I pulled out 20 degrees of timing, so every time I let off the throttle, it goes, pop, 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 pop. First of all, that means your tune sucks. And your tuner didn't take the time to actually refine your map and smooth that out. But that's why it exists on pro cars, for anyone that wants to know. Okay, good talk.
The other big cultural thing that I'm glad to start see a decline of is the Carolina squat, Cali lean, whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm so glad that GSP and FSP are cracking down on it even more. It's getting ridiculous, or was ridiculous at one point. And like,
used to
people
be
like,
so bad in America.
but like, people don't realize where it really came from. Like, you had not even a trophy truck. Like, people are like, oh, I want to build a trophy truck. You don't want to fucking build a trophy truck, because 10 of us together couldn't build a fucking trophy truck based on how much it costs. But it sags like that because of the suspension setup in the rear. Like, you got to have the amount of flex and travel. Like, those trucks have 40s on them with 21, 22 inches of suspension travel front and rear, which is insane. There's all the weight in the back is being held up by those 2 to 4 fucking Fox or King. Like,
but you see, that's the thing, dude. It's like people see something that is iconic, that is like a snapshot of whatever is something prime or good in a motorsport or a styling, and they just latch onto it and they try to duplicate it, and like that becomes a trend. And because of social media, it just takes off like wildfire, and people make this a fucking standard, right? Like, if TikTok and whatever the other fucking version of TikTok was before that, and Instagram really didn't exist, hey, that's how I afford this sport. All right, calm down. But if you didn't have like these stupid forms of social media that like lets that shit go viral, fucking shit. Yeah, like it wouldn't go anywhere, right? Like, you would see a trophy truck and you would appreciate the trophy truck, and you'd be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go run the sugar sand trails in the woods behind the house and
hell yeah,
99 Pathfinder, and it would stay that way.
$0 build to probably $100,000 to $150,000 build is a fucking trail truck. I don't care what anybody says. It's a fucking trail truck. Until you get to that $150,000 to $350,000 mark, then you're starting to look at a pre-runner where it's set up almost like your trophy truck, but you've got the AC, you've got the heat, you've got every amenity to go run a section comfortably before you're about to hate your life for the next 6 to 24 hours in a truck that's purpose built, which you're looking at.
Hell yeah. Ranger Raptor,
Ford.
bro. Ranger
Yeah.
Raptor.
All right,
Ford
I'm gonna
fucking-
hit on this fucking comment because I go back and forth with Kit and the guys in the group chat about this. So, BN Sports and VSKFs, I could care less about. Well, I can't say that because I do want some 3-piece wheels eventually, but you can replace VSKFs with any other multi-piece wheels, same shit. BN Sports, right? Standards, bullying, fuck the rep companies of something that's iconic, such as BN Sports, right? Like, even the rep companies can't even get the BN Sports side skirts right. That's how good they are, that even a rep company respects the fact that the original is just that good. But
Look, I blame Haraguchi
no,
for fucking up BN Sports and big wheels on drift cars.
no. But
He did
the
it,
reason
and then
I say
everybody
this-
wanted to fucking follow it.
The reason I say this, dude, is like we've all gone through this with the bajillion different aero pieces that we would go pick up, like a bumper, $20, done. Got 4 of them in the backyard. What do I need a 5th one for? I don't know. It's $20. I'm gonna go buy it, and it's BN Sports, right? Like it's Vertex. It's fucking something that is not Origin Lab because Origin Lab is trash, and
Yes.
we've fucking been there, done that, right? But then you also understand that when you buy Origin Labo shit, it doesn't fit. It is the equivalent of JP fiberglass overseas. And in America, it's the same price as fucking genuine shit. And people go out of their way to put it on their fucking cars. It's fucking stupid, right? But we also know that when you get the BN Sports kit and you put it on your car, you can keep the fender on with one fucking screw because that rear quarter panel hugs the entire body line of that chassis. My
Yeah,
Kazama
my
kit,
initiative, it's fine.
I don't
my
care.
Kazama
I don't
kit-
care.
my Kazama kit, when I first put it on the Chaser and we drove over to that new parking lot in American Village where Michael Garcia had his little thing, and I believe Seth, you were parked next to me. I
Yep.
put that body kit on like the night prior, and there was one screw on the quarter panel, 2 screws on the door like overlays, and that was it. Like everything just clicked in, it hugged and snapped, and everything was just beautiful. Right? But you get what you fucking pay for. It's a standard.
But there's still that. I don't care how much money you spend on a body kit, you still have to fit it regardless. I mean, look at Seth's RE kit. How much time was
literally
spent on
bolts it
that?
on.
Trying to get... There was a lot. There was quite a bit of cutting, and I remember
cutting.
you.
Yeah, but to cut the quarter panels.
Yeah, but that's standard
but
for
We had to
any
make it a
rear.
wide body.
Yeah, that's standard for going wide body.
What I'm saying,
I'm talking when you take that body
Everything
panel
fit
out of the
perfect.
packaging and you lay it onto the car,
Yeah.
right? When Origin Labo won't even lay onto the fucking car. You have to start cutting it before you can even get to like putting a fucking screw in it to hold it up, right?
Right.
It's when you get that quality part and you put it onto the car, it goes out the box onto it and it like hugs it. It latches on. Like the Kazama kit goes over the rear quarter panel to the trunk line, and then the Chasers like in the back have a swoop, and then it wraps around on the inside of the rear bumper, right? And then that same rear quarter panel also goes into the door jamb. And there's like 2 or 3 different ribs that like come out at 90s. It like clicks into that and it stays on. Like the screw was just there to make sure that when I was driving and it was rattling, it didn't like rattle itself and pop off. Otherwise, that kit would have stayed on the car without any like hardware, just sitting there.
Well, it has a
So
lot to do with-
I want to circle. I want to circle back real quick to kind of Cody's topic. Hey man, if you are, there's a lot of people that look at race cars and they're like, "That's what I want," or trophy trucks, right, or any professional motorsport vehicle. And I think one of the key things that you kind of put in, Cody, was it's a pre-runner. It's still not a trophy truck because you still have aircon, you still have power steering, you still have XYZ amenities. That's the same for the pro drift cars. That's the same for, name it, circuit car, whatever, time attack car. If you have never been in a real race car, I mean a dedicated track only race car, go drive one for a while. I want you to drive it for 1 hour continuously and then tell me you want to drive that bitch on the street every day. I guarantee you not a single person out there in internet land is like, hell yeah, I want to drive that drift car all day, every day with that hot ass engine sitting between my legs, basically. They're miserable, man. Like real race cars are absolutely miserable to drive. To be totally honest.
Don't forget to put your 30 pounds worth of safety gear on too when it's fucking 120 degrees outside and you're wearing full FR.
Yep. I mean, that's why my FD, if I had finished it again before I left Japan, it was not getting JCI'd. It was not going to go back on the street, and it won't when it comes down here either. And I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't think I'll ever build another street car for myself. If I want a fast street car, I'll go buy a Corvette or an M3 or something. But I like driving my cars on the track, and then I like getting in my comfy ass Ranger Raptor and driving them.
Yeah.
I don't know. The JZX is the only street car I'm probably ever going to build. Like, after this, track car, trailer queen, whatever you want to fucking call it, party mode engaged.
Right?
Yeah, you'll catch me with a F450 with some bags on it to help it drive better when I'm pulling a 30-foot trailer.
A 30-foot trailer or 4 fat bitches from fucking Cracker Barrel, dude. What the fuck do you need a 450 for?
Right.
Why? Wow. So little known, they actually have a better turning radius than the F350. So
yeah, they also consume all of the fuel.
Cut knuckles, brother. Cut knuckles.
Cut knuckles.
Right.
Yes. Cut knuckles while I'm pulling like 50,000 pounds worth of shit.
You'll be fine.
Let it eat.
That's what welders are for. That's what welders are for. So yeah. Other news. We got the E36 BMW in yesterday. Showed up.
Okay.
I'm pretty stoked about it, dude. For what I paid. But yeah, we're probably gonna do 2 JZ NA build on it, do an NAT, and then still got to figure out the transmission that I want to go with. So trying to find the best transmission I can easily source here for not $1 million, so that when we inevitably break it on the drift track, I have backups.
So here's what you do, right? You build the 2JZ. You put it in the car, you wire everything up, do the ECU, put it like bolt a starter up to it and everything, right?
Yeah.
And you cut a hole in the floor and you Flintstone it, because that's the best transmission you have in the Philippines.
I got R154s here, dude. I got T56s here.
They're probably like W58s that are being sold as 154s.
We have plenty of W58s too, but they're shit transmissions.
That they are.
No, it's either going to be a 154 or if I can find the SMG or the 420 SMG out of the M3.
Not an SMG. Not an SMG. The SMG. Okay, so I got screwed on this, right? The SMG is a weird, like, automatic fucking manual thing. It's not the 420G or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It uses a hydraulic clutch pedal, I believe. But anyways, I was told the BMW transmission that I had was a fucking get rag 6-speed manual transmission, and then I listed it up for sale for the price of one, and everybody was kind of just fucking laughing at me. I had no fucking idea why. It ended up being a fucking SMG trans, dude. And like when I looked at the conversion and doing all that stuff, like it wasn't fucking worth it.
Yeah, it's for me. I mean, honestly, the R154 is available here, but for what they sell for it, I'll probably just put a T56 behind it. Like, if I run into
Power,
something,
baby.
if we run into some money, dude, maybe I'll just go sequential. I don't know yet. So
Samsonis.
we'll see.
Get the clunks in there.
Yep. Yeah, dude, should be a good build. It'll be fun when I'm done with it. Cool. Anyone else got anything they want to add?
No. Fuck takeovers.
Fuck takeovers. All right.
VN sports kits and VSKFs are where it's at. It's a standard. If you're not there, you're not real. Fuck off.
Everything needs T37s. All right, dude. I'll catch you guys next week. Yeah. Wait.
Hold on real quick. Vern said he has an SMG.
I saw it. I got it.
Trans
I'll call it later.
garbage.
Well, shit. Guess we're on T56. Vern, if you have a T56, let me know. I'll buy it. All right, guys. With that, we're out. Bye.